Part 1. The void had no mercy. It never did. Vector understood this as he floated through the endless dark, his damaged escape pod tumbling slowly in the gravitational pull of a dying star. The emergency lights inside the cramped vessel flickered weakly, casting his chitinous face in shades of amber and shadow. His forearms hung limp at his sides, conserving what little energy remained in his exhausted body. The oxygen gauge blinked red. 12 hours left, maybe less. He had stopped hoping 3 hours ago. The mining accident replayed in his mind with mechanical precision. The asteroid had fractured wrong, sending a cascade of debris through the extraction zone. His section of the rig had torn away like paper, spinning into space with 17 of his fellow workers. The emergency beacons activated automatically. Protocol dictated rescue operations within 6 hours for critical personnel. Vector had checked the manifest before launch. He was listed as Level 4 engineering. Support. Expendable. The company would calculate the cost of retrieval against his remaining productive years and decide he wasn't worth the fuel. That was the Jathic way. Logic over sentiment. Efficiency over compassion. His people had built an empire spanning 200 star systems on these principles. They had survived the Great Plague, the resource wars, and the convergence crisis by making the hard calculations that softer species could not stomach. When faced with scarcity, they chose who lived and who died based on mathematical models and economic projections. It had made them powerful. It had made them cold. Vector checked the scanner display, though he knew what he would find. Empty space in all directions. The nearest station was 43 light hours away. His pod's distress signal barely reached 5 light hours on a good day. The math was simple, final. He would die here, another efficiency statistic in the quarterly reports. His family would receive his pension credits. His designation would be removed from the labor registry. The universe would continue without him. He thought about his daughter, Kessa. She was barely into her 3rd molt, still young enough to believe the propaganda they taught in the youth academies. She thought her father was building the future, harvesting the raw materials that powered their civilization's endless expansion. She didn't know about the safety shortcuts, the cost-cutting measures, the way management classified workers into tiers of expendability. Maybe it was better that way. Let her believe in the system a little longer. The cold crept deeper into his body. The life support system was failing, diverting power to the distress beacon that no one would answer. Vector reached out with one trembling hand and switched it off. No point wasting energy on false hope. Better to conserve heat for another hour or two. He closed his compound eyes and tried to remember warmth, the breeding pools of his homeworld, the thermal vents where he had courted his mate, the feel of Kessa's soft carapace when she was newly molted and vulnerable. He must have drifted into unconsciousness because, when the alarm jolted him awake, he thought he was already dead. The scanner was screaming. Something massive had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, less than 200,000 kilometers away. Vector's primary eyes snapped open, disbelieving. His secondary eyes focused on the display, checking for system malfunctions. No error codes. The readings were real. A ship. Not Jathic design. Not any design in the Confederation databases. The power signature made his scanner struggle to find appropriate comparison metrics. It settled on showing a simple message. Classification unknown. Threat level indeterminate. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of a Jathic dreadnought, its hull unmarked by any faction insignia he recognized. Vector's hearts began beating faster, burning precious oxygen. Pirates? No, they operated converted civilian craft, not purpose-built warships. An uncontacted species? Possible, but they usually avoided the established shipping lanes. His mind raced through possibilities, each more unlikely than the last. Then his communications panel crackled to life with a sound he had never expected to hear again. A voice, speaking directly to him. Attention, unidentified vessel. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Confederation ship Indomitable. We have received your distress beacon and are moving to intercept. Please confirm your status and any immediate medical needs. Terran. Vector searched his memory. The word was unfamiliar. His translator struggled with the accent. The phonemes shaped differently than any language in the known networks. The ship adjusted its trajectory, powerful engines glowing blue-white as it accelerated toward his position. They were coming for him. Actually coming. It made no sense. He was nobody. Nothing. His rescue had negative economic value. The voice spoke again, more insistent now. "Unidentified vessel, please respond. We show life signs aboard your craft. We're here to help. You're not alone anymore." Not alone. The word struck something deep inside Vector's chest, something he thought had been calculated away generations ago. His manipulator trembled as he reached for the communication control. What did he have to lose? He was dead already. The universe had written him off. But this voice, this unknown commander from an unknown species, was offering something his own people never would hope. "This is Vector. Engineer designation JC7749, Jathic Confederation," he transmitted, his voice barely a whisper through his translator unit. "My pod is critically damaged. Life support failing. I am expendable crew. You should not waste resources on retrieval." There was a pause. Then the voice came back and Vector heard something in it that he couldn't quite name. It wasn't pity. It wasn't calculation. It sounded almost like anger. "Vector, I don't know what the Jathic Confederation considers expendable, but we're human. We don't leave people behind, ever. Hold tight. We're coming to get you. Chen out." The massive ship surged forward and Vector felt something crack inside him. Not his body. Something deeper. Some foundational belief that had held his worldview together since his first day in the academies. As he watched the Terran vessel approach, its hull lights blazing like a constellation of impossible stars, he realized he was about to learn what compassion looked like when it came from a species that valued it over cold efficiency. He was about to meet humanity, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The docking sequence was unlike anything in Vector's engineering experience. The Terran ship didn't deploy a recovery drone or a mechanical arm. Instead, a small craft detached from the main hull, piloted by actual crew members who manually guided his damaged pod into a pressurized bay. Through his cracked viewport, he watched them work with practiced efficiency, their movements coordinated but somehow different from the automated precision of Jathic operations. They moved with purpose, yes, but also with something else: urgency, concern. The bay doors sealed. Atmosphere flooded the chamber. Then the exterior hatch of his pod was being manually unlocked from outside. The emergency releases triggered by strong alien hands. Vector's vision was blurring from oxygen deprivation, his body shutting down non-essential functions to preserve his core. He heard voices muffled through his failing translator. Then the hatch opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure and he saw them. Humans. They were smaller than he expected, bipedal creatures with soft skin and bilateral symmetry. But their eyes held an intensity that made his carapace prickle with instinctive recognition. These were predator eyes, forward-facing, focused, yet they weren't looking at him like prey. They were looking at him with determination, purpose. One of them, wearing what appeared to be a medical uniform, immediately moved to his side with a scanning device. "Easy, easy," the human said, the translator rendering the words with unexpected gentleness. "You're safe now. I'm Dr. Marcus Webb. Can you understand me?" Vector managed a weak gesture of affirmation with one manipulator. The doctor nodded and began working with swift competence, attaching monitoring devices to Vector's carapace, checking vital signs, adjusting something on a portable life support unit. Another human, this one in engineering coveralls, examined the pod's interior with professional interest. "Pod integrity is shot," the engineer reported. "He wouldn't have lasted another 4 hours. Lucky we picked up that beacon." "Luck had nothing to do with it," a third voice said, and Vector turned his compound eyes toward the speaker, a human female, her uniform bearing insignia that suggested command authority. She had dark hair pulled back severely, and those same intense predator eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. "We were conducting patrol exercises in this sector. Standing orders. Any distress signal gets immediate response. No exceptions, Commander Chen," the voice from the transmission. She approached Vector's pod and looked down at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Vector, right? I'm going to be honest with you. Your pod's power signature was failing. If we'd been 20 minutes later, we wouldn't have found you in time. But we did. So now we're going to fix you up, get you healthy, and figure out how to get you home." Home. The word carried implications Vector wasn't ready to process. The doctor was administering something through a dermal applicator, and warmth began spreading through his body. Oxygen-rich atmosphere filled his spiracles. His vision cleared. For the first time in hours, he could think beyond simple survival calculations. "Commander," he managed, his voice stronger now, I must ask why. Your species has no obligation to the Jathic Confederation. I checked your vessel's identification. Terran. I have no record of Terra in the Confederation databases. You are unknown. Unaligned. My rescue cost you resources with no possibility of reimbursement or political advantage. It is illogical. Something shifted in Commander Chen's expression. Not anger. Not quite. But a hardening around her eyes that made Vector suddenly aware that these soft-skinned beings might be more dangerous than their appearance suggested. Let me tell you something about humans. Vector, she said quietly. We spent most of our history fighting each other. Wars over resources, territory, beliefs, things that seem stupid in retrospect. We almost destroyed ourselves a dozen different ways before we finally got off our homeworld. But somewhere along the way, buried in all that conflict, we developed something. A code, an instinct maybe. We call it different things. Honor, duty, basic human decency. She gestured around the bay where crew members were efficiently working to transfer Vector to a medical gurney. Every person on this ship comes from Earth or one of the colony worlds. We're barely a century into space exploration by your standards. We're the newcomers, the primitives. The species that the established powers probably think are too idealistic to survive out here. And maybe they're right. Maybe compassion is inefficient. Maybe caring about strangers has no logical basis. Commander Chen leaned closer and Vector saw something in her eyes that made his heart skip. Conviction. Absolute, unshakable conviction. But we're human. And humans don't leave people to die alone in the dark. Not if we can help it, not ever. That's not weakness. That's who we are. The medical team was ready to transport him. As they lifted the gurney, Vector caught sight of the bay's observation window. Beyond it, the Indomitable stretched across his field of vision, its hull plating scarred from battles or maybe just hard use. But its lines were elegant, purposeful, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with aesthetic calculations. This was a ship designed by beings who believed in something beyond cold efficiency. Dr. Webb walked alongside the gurney as they moved through corridors that hummed with activity. Crew members passed them and each one glanced at Vector with curiosity but no hostility. Some even nodded, a gesture his translator interpreted as acknowledgement. Respect. They were treating him like a person, not a problem to be solved or a resource to be allocated. You're lucky the commander was running this patrol, Dr. Webb said conversationally. She's got a thing about distress signals. Never met a rescue mission she didn't like. 6 months ago, we diverted 3 days off course to save a civilian freighter crew. Command wasn't happy about the delay, but Chen just filed a report citing Article 7 of the Terran Charter. Preservation of sentient life supersedes mission parameters in non-combat situations. They couldn't argue with that. They entered what was clearly a medical bay, equipped with technology that looked simultaneously familiar and alien to Vector's experienced eye. Advanced, certainly, but designed with an attention to patient comfort that seemed inefficient. Padded beds instead of sterile pods, ambient lighting instead of clinical brightness, a view screen showing what appeared to be a natural landscape from Earth, rolling green hills under a blue sky. It helps people heal faster if they don't feel like they're in a laboratory, Dr. Webb explained. Noticing Vector's attention, psychological comfort impacts physical recovery. We figured that out the hard way. As they transferred him to one of the beds, Vector felt something he hadn't experienced since his youth. Safety. Genuine, uncalculated safety. These beings didn't see him as a number in a spreadsheet. They saw him as worth saving simply because he was alive. The implications were staggering. Commander Chen appeared in the doorway, her expression softer now. Vector, I need to contact the Jathic Confederation and let them know you're alive. Can you provide me with the appropriate communication protocols? I'd rather not trigger an interstellar incident on my first official contact with your government. Vector's translator crackled as he processed multiple emotional responses simultaneously. Gratitude, confusion, and something else. Dread. Because he knew what would happen when the Confederation learned that humans had rescued one of their expendable workers. They would calculate the cost, run the efficiency models, and they would inform Commander Chen that her efforts had been wasted on a resource not worth retrieving. But he couldn't lie to these beings who had saved his life. Yes, Commander, I can provide protocols, but I must warn you, my government will not respond as you expect. They do not value individual lives the way you do. They will tell you that I was classified as non-essential, that my rescue was unnecessary. They may even refuse to acknowledge recovery costs. Commander Chen's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or confirmation of a suspicion. I appreciate the warning, Vector. But we didn't save you because we expected payment. We saved you because it was the right thing to do. Let me worry about your government. She turned to leave, then paused. Get some rest. You've been through hell. Dr. Webb will take good care of you. And Vector? Welcome aboard the Indomitable. You're part of our crew now, at least until we can get you safely home. As she walked away, Vector lay back against the surprisingly comfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. Part of their crew. The words resonated in his mind, colliding with everything he had been taught about value and worth and the cold mathematics of survival. These humans, these unknown newcomers to the galactic stage, had just demonstrated something his people had forgotten centuries ago, that sometimes compassion was the most logical choice of all. Because it didn't just save lives. It created bonds, built trust, forged connections that could reshape entire civilizations.